Okay, let's dive into this deep dive. We're looking at the source material you've brought us on a really difficult, very layered case today.
Yeah, it's the disappearance and, well, the murder of Jennifer and Abby Blagg. Happened back in 2001, Grand Junction, Colorado.
Right, and our goal here, if you're listening, is to really cut through all the details, pull out the key facts, the insights from the sources, just to give you a clear picture of how this whole tragic story unfolded.
It all kicks off very suddenly, November 13th, 2001. There's this chilling 911 call.
From Michael Blagg, right, the husband and father.
Exactly. He's on the line reporting his wife, Jennifer, she was 34, and their daughter, Abby, just 6 years old, missing.
And the scene he described, I mean, it was immediately alarming. Said he came home, found a huge amount of blood in the primary bedroom.
Yeah, a tremendous amount. And when police got there, they saw it too. Significant blood, definitely. On the bed, on the floor.
There was something odd, wasn't there?
Yes, what struck them right away was how contained it all was. I mean, no blood splatter up on the walls, no drips in the hallway, absolutely no drag marks leading out of the room.
Huh. So all that blood, but no sign that a struggle had, moved out of that specific area.
Precisely. It strongly suggested whatever violence happened right there, and the victims probably didn't leave that room willingly or, under their own steam.
So this wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. It was clearly a violent crime scene from the get-go.
Instantly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into that initial investigation. What else did the police start finding?
Well, they used luminol, standard procedure, confirmed more blood evidence in the bedroom, but the real sort of puzzle piece came from Jennifer's van.
The van. Wasn't it just parked in the garage?
It was. Parked inside the closed garage, but they found these small traces of blood inside it, on the driver's seat and also on the back bumper.
Whoa, okay. Blood in the van, which was in the garage. That feels important.
Oh, absolutely significant. And get this, the van keys. Found inside the house, on a dresser, right there in the primary bedroom.
Okay.
And near the keys, Jennifer's purse was spilled out, stuff scattered all over the dresser, her jewelry box was on the floor, empty. So on the surface, you might think, okay, burglary.
Right, classic signs. But I gather the police weren't quite buying that. It felt a bit off.
They felt it was off instantly. Yeah, almost performative is a good way to put it. Because, think about it. How often does a regular house burglary escalate to murder or kidnapping? It's rare.
Sure.
And even if it did escalate, why leave behind the really valuable stuff? Computers, TVs, these were expensive items back in 2001, untouched.
So taking cash and jewelry, but ignoring the big-ticket electronics, that doesn't fit the typical profile.
Not at all. It smacked less of a random crime of opportunity and more like someone trying to deliberately stage the scene, make it look like something it wasn't.
Okay, so the scene itself, the van evidence, it starts pointing away from a random break-in and maybe toward someone who knew the house, knew the family,
Yeah.
which naturally brings the focus onto.
The husband. Standard procedure. The husband is always the first person investigators look at closely, and Michael Blagg's demeanor was definitely under scrutiny.
How did he seem?
It was mixed. The 911 operator said he sounded genuinely distraught, panicked even. But then, in his formal police interviews, he apparently came across as much more composed, almost distant.
Which could be shock, I suppose.
It could. Police know that shock manifests in weird ways, but they were definitely noting it, watching closely.
So what was his story? What did he say happened that morning?
He said he left for work pretty early, maybe 6:30 a.m. Jennifer and Abby were still asleep. Everything seemed totally normal. He went to his job at a MedTech Dixon, a manufacturing place. He had an alibi. Basically, he was there all day.
Okay. And he tried calling home.
Yeah, he told police he called multiple times. 7 a.m., then 10 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., left messages.
And the sources mentioned something about the tone of those messages changing.
Yes, according to Michael himself, actually. The early ones were apparently light, kind of playful. Hey, where are you guys?
Yeah.
Call me back, that sort of thing.
Which fits that Ned Flanders description some people apparently used for him. Overly happy.
Kind of, yeah. Projecting that super friendly image. But the last message, the one around 3 p.m., there was a shift. He still sounded sort of light, but you could hear this undertone of real worry starting to come in. Man, are you guys okay? Really hope everything's okay, that kind of thing.
And police picked up on that shift. And a number of calls, wondering if maybe he was building an alibi.
It was definitely something they considered. Was he making those calls knowing they wouldn't answer to create a timeline? That was a question.
What was his explanation?
He said calling and checking in like that was just normal for them. They were very connected, had this daily routine. So not getting any response all day long was really unusual and, frankly, alarming for him. He said his worry really spiked when he got home and found the front door unlocked. He emphasized that Jennifer never left the door unlocked, ever. That's when he said he knew something was seriously wrong, went inside, saw the scene in the bedroom, and then called 911.
Hmm. So the physical evidence is screening foul play, maybe a staged scene. The husband's story has explanations, but also these little details that make experienced investigators pause.
Right. Plausible deniability, maybe, but also inconsistencies.
So to get a clearer picture, they had to dig deeper, right? Into the Blaggs' lives, their marriage, beyond just that day.
Exactly. That's often the next step when the scene itself is confusing. You look at the context and publicly, especially in Grand Junction where they were relatively new and at their church. Michael and Jennifer Blagg looked like the picture-perfect family.
Active Christians, right. Faith was important.
Hugely important, especially for Jennifer. They were born-again Christians, they'd met in college, got married, moved to Grand Junction for Michael's job. Apparently, Jennifer hadn't really wanted to leave South Carolina. She had family, friends, support there, was raising Abby. But she saw moving as, her duty as a wife.
So to their new community, they seemed happy, friendly, ideal couple.
Totally. That's the image. But the sources, when investigators started digging, they revealed some complexities, tensions under the surface.
Like what?
Well, Jennifer kept a journal, and in it there was an entry mentioning a pretty significant fight they'd had. No specifics, unfortunately, but maybe even more telling. Police found this note Michael had written to Jennifer.
A note?
Yeah, apologizing for various things, and it included this phrase, apologizing for letting the devil get a foothold in their marriage.
Wow. The devil's foothold. That phrase takes on a whole new weight given what else they found, doesn't it? The computer.
It really does, because investigators uncovered thousands of violent pornographic images on the family computer.
Okay, now, finding porn isn't automatically evidence of a crime, obviously.
No, not in itself, but context is everything in this specific case. Given their very public, very devout Christian faith and lifestyle, it was a massive red flag. It just completely contradicted the image they projected. It hinted at this hidden life. Maybe that was the devil's foothold Michael wrote about.
Did Michael explain this?
He admitted struggling with pornography, yeah. Said he'd confessed it to Jennifer, but his explanation for why the images were still there and what he claimed Jennifer's reaction was, that really set off alarm bells for the investigators.
What did he claim?
He claimed Jennifer was upset at first, naturally, but then, according to him, she offered to view the pornography with him.
Why?
His stated reason was, get this, for educational purposes, so she could better serve him as his wife.
Better serve him. That phrase.
It struck investigators as incredibly bizarre, twisted even. It felt like he was maybe blaming her or trying to normalize something deeply uncomfortable, especially given everything they knew about Jennifer's character and her faith. It just didn't sound right. Didn't ring true at all.
Yeah, that's unsettling. So police started talking to people who knew Jennifer before the move, right? Friends back in South Carolina.
Exactly. Looking for a different perspective, maybe one not colored by the perfect family image in Grand Junction. And those friends, they painted a slightly different picture. Still loving, but with some concerning elements.
Like control issues.
Potentially. They described Jennifer as seeming anxious sometimes about her role, about getting the house just right before Michael got home, sometimes needing to rush friends out, feeling like she had to report where she was, what she was doing. Right. One friend even mentioned Michael sometimes choosing Jennifer's clothes or how she wore her hair, things that individually might seem small, but together, friends saw it as different, maybe a bit controlling.
Things that maybe only seemed significant in hindsight after she disappeared.
Exactly. And then there was one very specific conversation, mentioned in the sources, Jennifer talking to her friend Edie just days before she went missing.
This feels important. This was used later, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Critically important for the prosecution. Jennifer called Edie, asked if she and Abby could come visit South Carolina. But the key thing was, she specifically told Edie that Michael would not be coming with them.
Which was unusual for them.
Incredibly unusual, according to Edie. They did everything together. Jennifer wanting to travel alone, visit without him for the very first time. It struck her friend as really weird. And later, the prosecution argued this was proof Jennifer was maybe planning to leave him.
Okay, so if you peel back that perfect veneer, you find these hidden stresses, the porn issue, potential control dynamics, and maybe even Jennifer thinking about leaving. And you combine that with the physical evidence back at the scene, the blood, the staged burglary look, Jennifer's blood in the van parked back in the garage. The police theory must have started getting pretty solid.
It really did. The evidence was pointing strongly away from a random intruder. The working theory became Michael killed Jennifer at home, probably while she was asleep, given the lack of struggle signs in the bedroom.
And Abby.
Potentially killed Abby then, too. Used Jennifer's van to move their bodies somewhere else, dump them, then brought the van back, put it in the garage, staged the burglary scene to throw off investigators, went to work, made those calls all day knowing no one would answer, setting up his timeline, then came home in the evening to discover the scene and call 911.
That theory fits the evidence they had much better than the kidnapping story. But they still didn't have the bodies or direct proof placing Michael there during the crime, just that it happened in his house.
Correct, and that's why things stalled. For months, 3 months, 6 months, 7 months went by. Searches turned up nothing. It seemed like the trail had gone completely cold.
Until the spring of 2002. About 7 months later.
Yeah. And this is where that coworker tip comes in. Something that must have seemed like such a long shot at the time.
But it turned out to be absolutely pivotal.
Totally pivotal. A coworker of Michael's from Ametek-Dixon finally called the police. They'd apparently hesitated for months, thinking it was probably nothing, just a weird little detail.
What was the detail?
The coworker saw Michael taking out the trash at work multiple times. On the morning of November 13th, the day Jennifer and Abby vanished.
And why was that weird?
Because Michael was an engineer. Taking out trash wasn't his job. They had cleaning crews for that. It just struck the coworker as really unusual behavior for him to be hauling trash bags out repeatedly that specific morning.
Wow, a tiny observation from months before.
But police immediately saw the potential significance. If Michael had disposed of evidence or even the bodies in the work dumpster,
It would end up in the landfill section for that company's trash.
Exactly. So despite the enormous challenge, the low odds, they decided they had to search the landfill.
Searching a landfill for something deposited 7 months earlier.
Ugh.
That sounds almost impossible, like a needle in a haystack.
It was a monumental undertaking. They had to work with the landfill managers, map it all out, create a grid, use shipping records from Ametek-Dixon to try and figure out which section of this massive landfill might contain trash from that specific week in November 2001.
Just the logistics sound insane.
Totally. And everyone knew it was a long shot. Finding anything after 7 months buried under tons and tons of refuse, the odds were incredibly slim.
The conditions.
Yes.
Unimaginable. Sifting through all that day after day.
Grueling, disgusting, emotionally brutal work. They used heavy machinery, excavators, but also had teams sifting manually. It went on for 16 days. 16 days of that.
Until day 16.
Yeah, day 16. An excavator was digging in one of the targeted sections. It lifted a scoop of trash, and there was a tent tangled up in it. The tent ripped open from the weight inside it.
Oh.
And a human leg fell out, back into the pit.
Oh my God. After all that searching to find them, I can't even imagine.
It must have been horrific. But it confirmed their theory and their worst fears. They carefully recovered the body, still wrapped in that tent. It was Jennifer Blagg.
And she was found exactly where they predicted, based on his workplace traps.
Exactly. In the section corresponding to Ametek-Dixon's trash from the week she disappeared, the autopsy confirmed the cause of death, shot in the head, consistent with being killed in her sleep, like the bedroom scene suggested.
Finding Jennifer was the breakthrough, the direct link. But Abby was still missing.
Still missing. They searched that area extensively, but her body wasn't found there in the landfill during that search.
But finding Jennifer was enough.
It was enough to move forward. 2 days after Jennifer's body was recovered, Michael Blagg was arrested. They found him at his mother's house down in Georgia, charged with Jennifer's murder.
And Michael maintained his innocence, even after they found Jennifer.
He did. Continued to plead not guilty. Stuck to his alternative story that Abby was the target. Jennifer was killed by the kidnapper, who then used the van to dump her body near Michael's work to frame him, return the van, stage the burglary, and left with Abby.
Which, as you said, just seems so much more complicated and less likely than the evidence suggested.
Right. It didn't really hold up against the physical facts. And things got more complicated shortly after his arrest. After a police interrogation, Michael attempted suicide.
Right, I remember reading that. Found in a bathtub.
Yeah, with a note, apparently still denying guilt. He survived. But after that, his lawyers advised him to stop participating in any public searches for Abby.
Which probably didn't look great to the public.
No, especially compared to Jennifer's family, who were out there constantly searching, keeping hope alive. It unfortunately made him look more withdrawn, maybe suspicious, even if it was just following legal advice.
And this whole thing just ripped the families apart, didn't it?
Oh, completely heartbreaking. You had Jennifer's mother, who came to believe Michael was guilty pretty early on, even before the body was found. And then Michael's family, standing by him, absolutely convinced of his innocence.
The sources mention a moment in court.
Yeah, really poignant. The first day of the first trial, the two mothers, Jennifer's mom and Michael's mom, who had been connected by their kid's marriage, they actually hugged briefly in the courtroom. Then they separated, went to sit on opposite sides of the aisle. Just devastating.
So the first trial was in 2004. What was the core argument from the prosecution?
They laid out the theory we've been discussing. Based on the scene, the van, the body disposal, the motive they proposed centered on Michael's alleged need for control, the marital problems simmering beneath the surface, exacerbated by that hidden pornography issue. And they leaned heavily on that call Jennifer made to her friend, the one about visiting SC, without him as evidence she might have been trying to leave. They essentially painted him as this cybersex addict whose wife was getting in his way.
And the defense? How did they counter that?
They went hard on character. Brought in tons of witnesses, friends, family, church members, colleagues, all testifying about what a loving husband Michael was, how happy the marriage seemed, their strong Christian faith. They used other entries from Jennifer's journal, ones where she wrote positive things about their relationship.
Trying to show the perfect couple image was real.
Exactly. There was also that surprising testimony from Jennifer's mom about an alleged choking incident from years earlier, though there seemed to be some confusion or inconsistency about when it happened or if she'd mentioned it before.
So a clash between character testimony and the physical, circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
How did the jury see it?
The jury deliberated for, I think, just over a day. They came back with a guilty verdict, first-degree murder, sentenced to life without parole.
So the physical evidence won out over the character witnesses.
It seems so. As persuasive as character testimony can be, the chain of evidence killed at home, her van used, her body found wrapped in a tent in his workplace trash dump from that specific week, it was just too strong for the jury to ignore.
But that wasn't the end of the legal story, was it? The conviction got overturned.
That's right. Years later, in 2014, the conviction was thrown out, not based on the evidence itself, but because of juror misconduct.
What happened?
One of the jurors, during jury selection, had apparently lied about her own personal history. Specifically, she didn't disclose that she had been a victim of domestic violence herself. That came out later, and the judge ruled it was grounds for a mistrial.
So a whole new trial had to happen.
A whole new trial. And because the case was so well known in Grand Junction, so much publicity, they had to move it to a different county to try and get an impartial jury.
So fast forward to 2018, 14 years after the first trial. Michael Blagg is on trial again.
Yes. And this time, he actually testified in his own defense, which he hadn't done the first time.
Did it make a difference? Was the evidence different?
The evidence presented was largely the same. Prosecution laid out their case, defense presented character witnesses, and tried to poke holes. Michael testified, maintained his innocence, stuck to his kidnapping theory. Over 80 witnesses called in total. It was another long trial.
And the outcome? Second time around?
Same outcome. The second jury also found Michael Blagg guilty of first-degree murder, again, sentenced to life without parole. That core physical evidence, especially finding Jennifer in the landfill tied to his work, remained the most compelling factor.
And Abby? Still officially missing.
Tragically, yes. Her body has never been found. The prevailing police theory, based on that coworker seeing him take out trash multiple times, is that Michael likely put both Jennifer and Abby's bodies in that workplace compactor. And Abby's remains are probably also somewhere in that vast landfill, just never located during the search.
It's just such a disturbing case. That stark contrast between the public face, the ideal family, and the dark reality hidden underneath. We've gone through the initial confusion, the subtle clues, that crucial coworker tip, the incredible landfill search, and the long road through the courts.
It really does force you to confront how well we can ever truly know someone. And it highlights how sometimes, the physical evidence, even if it's circumstantial, just speaks with this quiet, undeniable voice that can be louder than any amount of testimony about someone's character. It makes you think, how do you balance that? The weight of character witnesses versus cold, hard, physical facts. It's a really fundamental question in seeking justice.
A really powerful question to leave you with. And as we finish this deep dive, it's just so important we remember Jennifer and Abby Blagg themselves. They were real people, not just case details. Remembered as loved by their family, Jennifer's deep faith, her role as a mother. Their lives were cut short so brutally, and while Jennifer was eventually found, Abby never was. we remember them both.